Good afternoon. In the past days, there have been a crisis that is taking the center of attention. But there's more important things. For instance, there have been in the past years a crisis of models or regulations that has been in question because of recommendations of international societies to put in place or to continue. For instance, one already in place, the private plans for retirees, but in Colombia there were two models, the public and the private. The recommendations have been to maintain the private, like in Chile, but in Chile this model has failed because of the unbalanced markets in comparison with the public program that it has been in maintenance always in Colombia, that is all in a bag that will go in distribution to all the people. In signal with the higher salary and from them on. So it will be like a public saving. But the recommendation has been to subtract the public saving or not establish. When you don't have the public program, but you should. But the ideal or the logical way is to put up a public funding. The other part is the protests, the strikes for the suggestions of salary by hours. That is a good idea, but not if you're gonna impose to everyone. If you are an employee in the moment, when you have all the benefits of it, like retirement money, liquidation, the so-called prima, or money given to you each 6 months, that is on salary monthly. But the idea would be well if it will have been proposed and the hourly salary for those who are not stable on jobs or have part-time. But the people understood because the politicians retracted or didn't explain well that it was for those kind of people and not for the fully employed or stable. The killing of social leaders that has been in continuous even now, or the corruption that has been an illness until even now, and it's shown by those people that have been found guilty to be granted house arrest when they should be in jail, for they have been shown to be a menace for the public funding, or even because they don't want to have a day of jail, or because they could move their monies elsewhere, or other thing, or by other name, could be involved in the public office. But even in jail, there have been shown that they could influence by their families, like it's shown with the politicians involved with illegal armed forces. So now in this crisis, in coronavirus, it's more like a fog created or established, not because of the disease, because the disease is real, but in the matter of putting the disease like in the center, like in the most important spot, and the rest just leave her behind, like it had never existed. When those diseases, social diseases, are real and need to be solved, need to be addressed, because there have been debates where the public have been calm because the government cleverly enough have told the public and the opposition that those are just ideas that need to be addressed in debates, but that those ideas are not gonna be in place if the other ones don't agree. But ideas have been put in place over the public strikes, like the association of some public enterprise that is understood like a beginning of transforming those public enterprise into private ones. So those are just questions left behind that need to be addressed. Or the feminist questions, where they have been complaining of the retribution of the police, the mistreatment, or even the not equality enough of the society. And plus the question of social liberties, like in abortions, or the LGBT questions, that in some hemispheres have been put in question with courts or magisters that are in model with the conservative government in the moment, that are in peril of deciding against them, against their liberties, where for beginning, and it should be, the abortion should be a matter of will, or the rights, they're just rights, that because everyone is a person that should be respected as such, and should be have the same obligations and rights like others, even if you're not an ideal partner, or someone that normally would be look well in nature, where it has been proven that every kind of people have existed since the beginning, and not any of the religion books have written against them. Well, just in the part of sodomy, but that's just like the part of the straight people. If you commit the act without love, or just constantly with other people, or just with the same people, just for winning, it will look bad. But it's also because in the past any kind of people that are not considered naturally well, or not considered pure race, has been, or in the same culture, has been treated like a menace, where those that need to stop, because that will bring speeches of that will end up in massacres, like the American Indian War. That was because different people with different cultures didn't have other notation or consumption of land, of the use of land, or with the Nazis, the problem of the use, or the problem in the United States or South Africa, the matter of the black communities, or the matter of the LGBT community in most of the societies until recently. So it's a matter that needs to be addressed. Yeah, the crisis have changed the lives of all people, because it's shown the need of hygiene, need of social distance, need of protection with face masks, gloves, the the bath and the cleaning after you return of hanging out or working. But it has shown excuses, like for instance in countries like Colombia, it have shown excuses to give house arrest to people that should be in jail, or the not shamingly part of some people, of some economical groups, financial groups, that I'm talking about the banks, that are asking for help when they have a lot of money. They don't want to help the people that are in crisis because of using excuses that were in place before, beginning with if you are not unemployed or if you don't have an stability employ, you should not get a loan, or if you're not financially well in papers, like if you are not in, if you are in risk list, you should not get a loan, where these measures should be revalidated for in this kind of crisis where most of people are unemployed, or in most of the world they just have been restrained of going to work normally or going to business that need to be shown and cannot be functionable from home. Plus, they have asked the government to cut the tax against them when they should at least pay that for the money taken from the taxes of people or the interests that have been put in favor of the banks, but against the people. And this way, that tax will be a small part of retribution to the or give back to the people. Plus, it should be approved that the people should get a restart, a fresh start with their financial status, like some Congress in some countries are proposing, because that will give opportunity to people that are in risk list or cannot have a loan to have it. But it should be added that if you don't have unemployment, or if you don't have unstable employment, or if you are independent, you could have access to a loan. The other part, because of this crisis, the quarantines in most of the parts of the world have been strictly without have the opportunity to go out of the house, but just for extraordinary circumstances. But in other parts, like in the US, the quarantine has been just for the night, but it's only in name because you're not being stopped. Just complain about if you're walking or if you're in contradiction, evidently contradiction to the law, evident contradiction to the law. But all the security measures have been put in place: social distance, mask, gloves when you enter a place, strictly measures when you go to work. All this to address the help that a lot of companies like hotels, cruise liners, or airlines are seeking from governments to help. That is good, but it shouldn't be to help entities that are public or that are in association with governments. Well, a lot of airlines, cruise liners, or entities, even if it's not a tourist, in some grades or percentage are in association with the government and should be helped, but not the public entities where they have been having the help of the government, or have been in collide with private institutions to have public contracts in use of new kind of contracts that are questionable. That is interdisciplinary or inter-administrative contracts that are used in other countries but are not ethical enough. But there are also airlines that have always been, or entities that have always been in crisis, that now are in question if they should be helped or should be giving help, like some banks or some entities that have been owned by presidents or by familiars of people that are in governments, that serve in some way to the public but are questionably publicly if they should be helped. if they continue to serve well, or if they continue to address the crisis in the manner that it has to be done, it should be agreeable. If not, they shouldn't be helpful. In the world, the public members have the obligation to show their finance, their rental declarations. But in Colombia, it has been recently used, although that's a law, an obligation, but it hadn't been used until recently. But the question was with the president and or other functionaries, congressmen, or public faces that publicly shown the rental declarations in zeros. Yeah, there are exemptions, there are ways to reduce the rental declaration legally, but ethically it's not well shown when it's public knowledge that you have earned a lot of money legally, and it's shown that you don't have supposedly the money, or it's not shown in a rental declaration, where it's obvious that to measure taxes that you pay, one of the parts that is used to charge taxes is through the rental declaration. This is an opportunity to address these problems, to leave considerations that one can see a lot of crises healthy in the matter of the health, or in the matter of international, in the matter of conflict, but one has to be serious with the matters that are there, that have been shown, and that should be addressed, that are a matter of national stability or national consideration, most if it belongs to each country, but it could be shown by examples to other places, because the public eye, nationally and internationally, are shown. It's not good to go back to instance where the corruption is validated, where the social rights are restricted, or that measures that are shown that doesn't work be implemented. Thank you. Good afternoon.